Hi everyone and welcome to Bit Knits. Today I am going to do a little bit of an organic crochet project. I have this knitted blanket. It is a temperature blanket that I made probably 6 years ago now, back in 2017 maybe. And as I pulled this one out, I realized there was no formal border. You can see here it's very unfinished on the edges. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I decided not to put a border on. I think I was just so ecstatic that I had actually finished a full-sized knitted blanket that I just put it away and didn't even think anything more of it. So when I pulled this out for my Coffee and Crochet episode and realized that there was no formal border on this, I decided, well, that needs a border. This needs to go in my work in progress stash. And if you're anything like me, you might have works in progress kind of stuffed over in the corner or in your closet or in your craft room. This one wound up folded up in my closet, which is also where I have all of my yarn because I don't have a formal craft room yet. And instead of just keeping this in my work in progress stash or pile, I decided, you know what, I'm going to put a border on this. I'm going to work it organically and I'm going to film it, so if anybody else has a similar project that you've done and you just don't know what to do for a border, I'm going to show you how you can just go with the flow. It doesn't need to be stressful, especially if it's something for yourself and you just want to get it out of that work in progress pile. The edges are very unfinished. I didn't cut my yarn and weave it in very well. I don't know what I was doing. I look at this and it's just a mess, but I love the blanket itself, and so I really do want to put a border on it, even if it's not anything super fancy. I want a border on it. I want to get this out of my closet and into a space where I can look at it. It can be used and enjoyed. So the first thing I want to do is figure out what kind of border I want. These are very unfinished edges. I am going to start with a single crochet all the way around the edge. I'm going to work 3 single crochets into each corner just to get around that corner, but otherwise I'm going to try and work 1 single crochet all the way around, and that will give me a good foundation to work some other border into those stitches. Because I know this is a temperature blanket, I am 99% sure that there are 365 rows going up. So each day is represented by a different color or the same color if the temperature was the same. However, I have no idea how many stitches I used width-wise. So again, I am just working a single crochet all the way around, working 3 into each corner. I have no idea what size needle that I use. Now this is just a knit blanket. I would knit every row back and forth, so we've got a nice garter stitch here. I don't remember the needle size that I used. So when I put this border on, and I'm going to crochet it because for me crocheting a border is much easier than knitting a border. So I am going to use a 5mm crochet hook. I'm going to work a couple stitches. If I feel like it's too big or too small, then I will adjust it. And of course, the last thing we need to figure out is the color. Initially, I had thought white or black. I have plenty of white acrylic 4-weight yarn in my stash. However, I am currently using that for another project, so I don't want to have to go out and buy more yarn just for this project. Same with the black yarn. I have a little bit in my stash. However, I don't know that I have enough to get all the way around the edges more than once. I could probably get a nice single crochet border, but I don't know if I could get all the way around a second or third time. And like I said, this blanket is really very large. It fits on our queen size bed, and I will put all of the blanket information, pattern information, anything related to this video down below in the description box in case you wanted to check out my organic process in making the border. So I'm not going to use white, I'm not going to use black. I do have gray. So I've got this impeccable gray yarn, and it's a brand new ball. I think I have another ball, so I have plenty to go around this blanket. I want a color that is not already in the blanket because this is a temperature blanket and it's got all colors of the rainbow. I want the border to just tie everything in and really make a nice outline of this blanket. So I'm going to go with a gray because there's no grays in this blanket, and I think it's a nice enough gray where it'll have the bright colors of the blanket stand out and yet still stand on its own for the border. So let's start this project. I'm going to start in one of the corners. Now this corner, as you can see, is kind of a mess, so I might start up top here. I've got this black row here. I don't know what this was. I don't think this was part of the color. Maybe I tried to put a border on it. I don't know. So we are just going to ignore that. So I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook. Alright, so I'm going to start in the corner, and because there's no real corner here, because I don't know what I was doing, I'm just going to work 3 single crochets into this corner just to try to get around the corner. And then I'm going to try to work a single crochet as best as I can all the way around. Now, because this is a knit cast on or cast off, I'm not sure if this is the start or the end of my blanket, but the stitches are very tight, and so it may take me a while. I may have more stitches than I thought because I'm not sure I can get into the actual stitch. I may just have to work right underneath it, wherever I can find a spot. Again, this is a very organic process that I'm showing you, so there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's sort of a trial and error. Let's see how something looks. So I'm almost working over top of this black row here, which is fine. I don't know what the black was for. So that's how it looks so far. Just working a single crochet all the way around and 3 into each corner. That's the easiest way to set up your border, especially if you don't have anything in mind. It just gives you a nice edge, a nice stitches to work into. I am just continuing on down this first row with single crochets, and like I said, it's very organic, so if I feel like I need an extra single crochet, I will pull out the one I just did and just redo. It's very difficult to work into these stitches, and look at this mess I have to deal with. So I thought I would show you that, because I don't quite know how that's going to turn out. Alright, so I think I'm at a corner. I think I'm going to use that area as a corner. Now this is kind of flimsy, so I want to make sure that I get into enough stitches that it won't pull out at some point. Like I said, I don't know how I finished this. I don't know. Again, I think I was so happy that I actually finished the blanket and completed a project that I didn't think anything of a border or how I was going to finish it, or that weaving in my ends might have been a better idea. So I'm going to go a little bit more in to that corner and cover up this corner, the actual corner, since that's sort of where I tied off all of my corner ends, and I don't really want that showing, and I'm afraid if I put it too close to the actual corner that it'll pull out somehow. Like I said, I think I just tied these. They can easily come undone if I'm not careful. So I've worked 3 single crochets, and now I'm just going to work down the side as evenly as I can. I may have to work into certain areas more than once. I found that just doing this first edge, I added probably a few more stitches than were actually in the stitch count going across initially. But that's okay, like I said, this is organic. It's a good process, especially if you have a project that you want to finish. It's not going to anybody as a gift, and you just kind of want to play with the border and how to create a border and the edges that you want to use. There's so many options out there, and it can be something as simple as just the single crochets or double crochets or half double crochets all the way around. Or you can play with an actual stitch pattern that you enjoy and see if you can get it to work into a border somehow. I have worked the gray single crochets all the way around the entire blanket. And let me tell you, this is a much bigger blanket than I realized. Now I'm back at the first corner that I started at, and I have just put a slip stitch into that first stitch on that corner. So now I'm going to start working a little bit of a border pattern, nothing super fancy. Like I said, this is really an organic project, so I'm just kind of going with the flow. What I'm going to do is slip stitch around this corner because I'm not sure how the corners are going to go yet, and I don't want to start on a corner and then change my mind on the next corner on how to do the corners. So I'm just going to leave that last corner, slip stitch around. I'm going to slip stitch into that first single crochet right after the corner, and now I'm going to start the pattern. So I'm going to chain 5, and I'm going to skip 3, and then I'm going to work a single crochet into the next. So we kind of get a little chain space here. Same thing, chain 5, skip 3, and single crochet into the next. And I'm going to work this all the way around. I'm not sure again how I'm going to do the corners. I may have to amend or revise this little stitch pattern here. I may have to skip 2 or maybe skip 4 just to kind of make sure that the corners are all uniform. So I'm coming up on my first corner, and you may be asking yourself and me why I didn't just count the number of stitches I had on my sides. Well, yes, you're right. I totally could have counted all of my stitches after I put in those single crochets, and even before as I was going, so I would know a stitch count and a multiple that I might need for this border. But let's be honest, I just want this out of my work in progress pile. I don't want to come up with a pattern that requires a strict stitch count necessarily. I am only looking to get this out of my work in progress pile. I'm just working very organically. I don't want the stress of planning and worrying about how it's going to come together at the end if I'm off on my stitch count. So here we are at the first corner. That middle stitch of those 3 is my true corner. I'm going to go ahead and chain 5 like I've been doing. Skip 3, and that will put me on the first stitch of that corner. So I'm going to go ahead and work a single crochet on that first stitch. For the corner, because you kind of need an increase, I'm going to chain 3, and right into that corner stitch I'm going to work my single crochet. I'm going to chain 3, and into the very next stitch, which is the last stitch of my corner, I'm going to single crochet, and that will create sort of 2 smaller chains on the corners. I'm hoping that works out as I get to the next corner, but like I said, I will adjust the amount of stitches that I skip right before the corner, and I'll work that same pattern into the corner. You want a single crochet into the first stitch of the corner. So remember, each of our corners had 3 single crochets. So into the first stitch of that corner you want a single crochet. You're going to chain 3. Into the second or middle stitch of that corner you're going to single crochet, chain 3, and into the last stitch of the corner single crochet. Now I can continue on with the pattern that I've been doing, which is the chain 5, skip 3, and single crochet. So I'm going to keep going with that pattern all the way around. And by the way, I am so glad that I picked a yarn that I have a little bit more of, because I am really going through this gray on this blanket. So I'm glad I have one more ball left of that, because I probably will need it. So I have finished all the edging. I just worked the 3 chains and then single crochet into the corners. Surprisingly, I had no issues as far as the pattern went. I didn't really have to adjust how many stitches I skipped, except for this very end, only because I wanted to make sure that this lined up to where I started. Otherwise, it was smooth sailing all the way along. So you can see how that edging looks. Now it's a nice simple edging. What I like about this little border here is that it's simple, but it does give a little bit of something else. It's not just, you know, a single crochet or double crochet very straight edge, because this blanket is sort of a mishmash of colors, and I wanted to add something that would just give it a little hint of uniqueness, I guess. Now, another reason I love this border is that if you do want to, in the future, add something like a shell or picots or another layer to this border, you've already got these chain spaces created, so you could easily come up with a number of different patterns to work in these chain spaces. I've worked this all the way around, and I really like it. I think the gray was a nice choice. It's not overstated or understated. It's a nice neutral to bring all the colors together, and it really ties the blanket together, makes this become a finished project instead of sitting there in my work in progress pile. So there it is, a crochet border on a knitted blanket. One less work in progress that I have to worry about now. I hope you enjoyed watching me put this very simple organic crochet border on my knitted temperature blanket from 2017. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on all of my upcoming tutorials and other yarn content. Thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, happy knitting and happy crocheting. Bye!